I sat quietly at the corner of Mom's dining table, cutting slices of her favorite chocolate cake while my brother Marcus held court as usual. His voice filled every inch of the room, booming with the confidence of someone who'd just closed another real estate deal. Another $1 million property this quarter, Marcus announced, swirling his wine glass. That's 7 figures in commission alone. Mom, did you hear that? 7 figures. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Mom said, beaming at him from across the table. I'm so proud of you. Marcus's wife Jennifer leaned into him, her diamond bracelet catching the light. He's being modest. Tell them about the waterfront development deal. Oh, that. Marcus waved his hand dismissively, though his grin suggested he was dying to elaborate. Let's just say we're looking at beachfront property in the Hamptons next summer. Maybe a place in Aspen for winter. My sister Claire, sitting beside Marcus, jumped in. Meanwhile, some of us are still climbing the corporate ladder one rung at a time. She shot a pointed look in my direction. Right, Maya? I continued slicing cake, measuring each piece with careful precision. The ladder's not so bad. The ladder, Marcus laughed, nearly spilling his wine. That's rich. Claire, she's not even on a ladder. She's been on the ground floor for 5 years now? 6, I corrected quietly, passing a plate to Dad. 6 years. Marcus slapped the table. 6 years and still an administrative assistant? What do they call it now? Executive coordinator? He made air quotes with his fingers. That's just a fancy way of saying you still answer phones and schedule meetings. Jennifer touched his arm, her voice dripping with false sympathy. Marcus, don't be mean. Not everyone can be in sales. Someone has to do the support work. Claire nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. The economy needs people at all levels. There's no shame in being support staff, Maya. Honestly, I think it's great that you're so comfortable with your position. I am comfortable, I said, cutting another slice. See. Claire turned to the table. She's happy. That's what matters. Not everyone needs to be ambitious. Dad cleared his throat. Maya works for a good company. That tech firm downtown, right? What's it called again? Meridian, I said. Never heard of it, Marcus said immediately. Is it one of those startups that'll be gone in 2 years? Maya, I've got to tell you, job security is important. You're not getting any younger. 29 and still entry level? That's concerning. Mom set down her fork. Marcus has a point, sweetheart. Have you thought about going back to school? Maybe getting an MBA like Claire did? That could help you move up. I'm fine where I am, I said. But are you though? Jennifer leaned forward, her perfectly manicured nails tapping the table. I mean, what's your salary? If you don't mind me asking. Because Marcus and I were just talking about how expensive everything is getting. We're looking at private schools for the kids and the tuition alone. Jennifer, I interrupted gently, I appreciate your concern, but I'm managing. Marcus laughed again, that booming sound that had dominated family gatherings since we were children. Managing. That's one word for it. Mom, remember when Maya graduated? She had all those big dreams. I'm going to change the world, she said. Remember that. I remember, Mom said softly. And now look. 6 years later, still fetching coffee and making copies. Marcus shook his head. It's sad, really. All that potential just wasted. Claire jumped back in. It's not wasted, Marcus. Maya's contributing. Every company needs good administrative support. The executives couldn't function without their assistants. That's exactly my point, Marcus said. She's support. She's not the one making decisions. She's not the one in the boardroom. She's the one outside the boardroom taking notes and ordering lunch. I continued eating my cake, letting the conversation wash over me like waves on a shore. This wasn't new. This had been every family gathering for the past 6 years. The script never changed, only the specific details of Marcus's latest success. Dad tried to redirect. How's the apartment, Maya? Still in that place in Brooklyn. Still there, I confirmed. Brooklyn, Marcus snorted. In that shoebox studio, right? How big is it? 300 square feet. 400, I said. 400 square feet at 29 years old. Marcus looked around the table as if inviting everyone to share in his disbelief. Meanwhile, Jennifer and I just closed on 4,500 square feet in Westchester. 5 bedrooms, 4 baths, 2-car garage. But hey, at least you're close to the subway, right? Jennifer patted his hand. Marcus, stop. I'm sure Maya's apartment is very cozy. Urban living has its advantages. You don't need a car and there are all those trendy restaurants nearby. That she can't afford, Marcus added. No offense, Maya, but on an administrative salary in New York? You're probably eating ramen most nights. I eat well enough, I said. Claire sighed dramatically. You know what frustrates me? Maya has always been smart. Really smart. She could have done something with that. But she just settled. She took the first job offer she got and never looked beyond it. That's not fair, Mom interjected, though her tone lacked conviction. Maya works hard. Working hard and working smart are two different things, Marcus said. I work hard, but I also work smart. That's why I'm where I am. You've got to have ambition, drive, vision. You can't just show up and expect success to fall into your lap. I don't expect anything to fall into my lap, I said quietly. Then what's your plan? Marcus leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Seriously, Maya. What's the 5-year plan? The 10-year plan? Or are you just going to keep answering phones until you're 40? I set down my fork and met his eyes. I have a plan. Oh, this should be good, Marcus grinned. Let's hear it. What's the grand plan? I'm exactly where I need to be. Claire laughed. That's not a plan, Maya. That's resignation. That's giving up. I haven't given up on anything. Could have fooled me, Marcus muttered. Look, I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm your brother. I want to see you succeed. But success requires action. It requires taking risks, putting yourself out there, networking. When was the last time you updated your LinkedIn profile? When was the last time you went to a networking event? I network, I said. With who? Other administrative assistants. Marcus laughed at his own joke. Come on, Maya. You need to network with decision makers, with executives, with people who can actually help your career. Not other people stuck in the same position you are. Jennifer nodded along. He's right. Marcus got where he is because he knows everyone. He takes clients to golf, to Yankees games, to that steakhouse in Manhattan. That's how you build a career. On an admin salary, she can't even afford the appetizers at that steakhouse, Claire said. The table fell silent for a moment, the only sound the clinking of forks against plates. I reached for my water glass, taking a slow sip while everyone watched me with varying expressions of pity and judgment. Dad tried again. What exactly does Meridian do? Technology, you said? Enterprise software solutions, I replied. Cloud infrastructure, data analytics, AI integration for Fortune 500 companies. Marcus waved dismissively. Sounds boring. And competitive. Tech is brutal right now. Layoffs everywhere. Maya, you should really be looking for something more stable. Maybe government work? Benefits are good and you can't really get fired. I'm not worried about getting fired. You should be, Claire said. In this economy, everyone should be worried. That's why I got my MBA, why I moved into management consulting. You need to make yourself indispensable. I am indispensable, I said softly. Marcus nearly choked on his wine. Indispensable? Maya, no offense, but everyone is replaceable. Especially in administrative roles. They can train someone fresh out of college to do your job in a week. Is that what you think? That's what I know, Marcus said firmly. It's business. Nothing personal. But the hard truth is that your role is easily replicated. Now my role? Finding high-value properties, negotiating million-dollar deals, maintaining client relationships? That takes years of experience and skill. That's indispensable. Jennifer squeezed his arm proudly. He closed a deal last month that fell through with 3 other brokers. The client specifically requested Marcus because of his reputation. That's the difference, Claire added. Reputation. Personal brand. Maya, what's your personal brand? Efficient note-taker? Punctual meeting scheduler? I smiled slightly. Something like that. Mom reached across the table and patted my hand. Sweetheart, we're just concerned. You're our daughter, our sister. We want to see you happy and successful. I am happy, I said. But are you successful? Marcus pressed. By any objective measure? Salary, title, career trajectory? Because from where I'm sitting. He was interrupted by the television in the living room, which Mom had left on low volume during dinner. Suddenly, the volume seemed to increase, or perhaps the room had simply gone quiet enough to hear it clearly. Coming up after the break, a news anchor's voice announced, an exclusive interview with the tech world's newest power player. At just 29 years old, she's revolutionizing enterprise software and leading one of the fastest-growing companies in the Fortune 500. Don't miss our exclusive sit-down with. The commercial break cut off the rest, but Marcus was already talking again. See? That's what 29 should look like. Leading companies, making an impact. Not just showing up to answer phones every day. He raised his wine glass. To success, however we each define it. Even if some definitions are more ambitious than others. Claire clinked her glass against his. To success. Jennifer joined in. To success. Mom and Dad exchanged glances but raised their glasses. To success. I lifted my water glass slightly, saying nothing. Marcus turned back to me, his expression a mixture of pity and frustration. You know what your problem is, Maya? You're too comfortable with mediocrity. You've accepted this is as good as it gets. But it doesn't have to be this way. You could still turn things around. Go back to school, switch industries, start fresh somewhere. You're not even 30 yet. There's still time. Time for what? I asked. To be someone, Marcus said. To matter. To make a difference instead of just taking up space in some office. Marcus, Dad said, a warning note in his voice. No, Dad, someone needs to say it. Maya's wasting her life and we're all just sitting here pretending it's fine. It's not fine. He should want more. She should be doing more. Maybe I am, I said quietly. Marcus laughed, that same booming laugh. Doing what? Alphabetizing files? Coordinating conference room schedules? Why, that's not doing more. That's doing the bare minimum. The television interrupted again as the program returned from commercial break. Welcome back. I'm Sarah Chin, and tonight we have a truly remarkable guest joining us. She's been called the most disruptive force in enterprise technology, the youngest CEO to ever lead a Fortune 500 company into the top 50, and the brain behind the revolutionary AI integration platform that's transforming how the world's largest corporations operate. Please welcome. Marcus turned toward the TV, his attention suddenly shifting. This should be good. Jennifer, remember we talked about investing in tech? Maybe we should. He stopped mid-sentence. On the screen, in a tailored navy suit, sitting across from Sarah Chin in CNBC's studio, was me. The room went completely silent. Maya Rodriguez, CEO of Meridian Technologies, Sarah Chin continued. Maya, thank you for joining us. Your company's Q4 earnings report sent shockwaves through Wall Street. $40 billion in valuation, up from $28 billion just 6 months ago. How does it feel to be leading one of the most successful tech companies in the world? On screen, I smiled, the same quiet smile I'd been wearing all evening at dinner. It's been an incredible journey, Sarah. I'm fortunate to work with an amazing team. Fortunate, Sarah laughed. Maya, you've been named one of Time magazine's most influential people, Fortune's Businessperson of the Year, and Forbes just ranked you as the youngest self-made billionaire under 30. I think fortunate might be understating it. The camera zoomed in on my face as I responded. Success is never about one person. It's about vision, execution, and having the right people in place. When I founded Meridian 6 years ago. Wait, Claire's voice cut through the silence in the dining room. 6 years ago? Marcus's face had gone completely white. His wine glass hung suspended in his hand, forgotten. On screen, the interview continued. Sarah Chin leaned forward. Let's talk about that. You started Meridian right out of college with just a laptop and an idea. Now you're managing a workforce of over 15,000 employees, servicing 92 of the Fortune 100 companies, and your AI platform is considered essential infrastructure for modern business. Walk us through that journey. I watched my family watching me on television. No one spoke. No one moved. The early days were challenging, my televised self continued. I worked out of a 400-square-foot apartment in Brooklyn. No funding, no connections, just a vision for how enterprise software could be revolutionized. I spent the first 2 years coding 18-hour days, building the foundation of what would become our flagship platform. Your apartment in Brooklyn, Sarah said. The same one you still live in according to our research. Despite being worth an estimated $4.2 billion, you've chosen to stay in that same studio apartment. Why? On screen I smiled. It reminds me where I started. And honestly, I don't need more space. I'm barely there anyway. Marcus's wine glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on the floor. No one reacted. All eyes remained fixed on the television. Sarah Chin continued. Your company went public last year in what's been called the most successful IPO since Facebook. But you've maintained controlling interest, which is unusual. You're not just the CEO. You're the founder, the majority shareholder, and according to our sources, you're still deeply involved in the actual coding and product development. Is that sustainable? I love what I do, I replied on screen. The coding, the strategy, the vision. It's not work when you're building something that matters. Our platform is processing over 3 trillion data points daily for some of the world's most important companies. That's not something I can hand off. Let's talk about those companies, Sarah said. You have contracts with 92 Fortune 100 companies. That's unprecedented market penetration for such a young company. What's the secret? We solve real problems, I said simply. We don't chase trends or buzzwords. We build infrastructure that works, that scales, that transforms how businesses operate. Our AI integration platform has saved our clients over $60 billion collectively in operational costs. When you deliver that kind of value, the market responds. Claire's hand was pressed against her mouth. Jennifer had gone pale. Dad sat motionless, his fork still halfway to his mouth. Mom's voice came out as barely a whisper. That's our Maya? On screen, Sarah Chin shuffled her papers. Let's address something our viewers are probably wondering. You've been incredibly private. No social media presence, very few public appearances, no celebrity CEO behavior. Why maintain such a low profile when you're leading one of the most valuable companies in the world? I watched myself smile on television. I prefer to let the work speak for itself. The technology we're building, the problems we're solving, that's what matters. Not my personal brand or public image. But surely there's value in being visible, in being a role model, especially for young women in tech? I hope the work itself is the role model, I replied. Show up every day. Solve hard problems. Build something that matters. That's the message, regardless of who's delivering it. Sarah Chin nodded. Speaking of showing up, our research team discovered something fascinating. Despite running a $40 billion company, you still maintain regular office hours at Meridian's headquarters in downtown Manhattan. Your employees say you're often the first one in the building and the last to leave. Why? Leadership is presence, I said. How can I ask my team to give their best if I'm not willing to do the same? Plus, some of our best innovations come from spontaneous conversations in the hallway or late-night brainstorming sessions. You can't have those if you're not there. Marcus finally found his voice. This can't be. On television, Sarah Chin was flipping to a new topic. Let's talk about your competition. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they all have enterprise software divisions with unlimited resources. How does Meridian not just compete but dominate against those giants? We're more focused, I explained. The tech giants have to serve multiple markets with competing priorities. We do one thing and we do it better than anyone else. Our entire company is built around enterprise AI integration. That's it. No distractions, no side projects. When you're that focused, you can move faster and innovate deeper than companies with broader mandates. That focus has paid off. Your stock price has increased 340% since the IPO. Your Q4 earnings beat analyst expectations by 22%. And you've announced plans to expand into 3 new international markets. What's next for Meridian? I watched myself lean forward on screen. We're announcing a new partnership next month with the Department of Defense for secure government AI infrastructure. It's a $12 billion contract over 5 years. Beyond that, we're opening research facilities in Singapore and Berlin, and we're launching an initiative to train the next generation of AI engineers. We're bringing 5,000 new employees on board globally. Sarah Chen's eyes widened. A $12 billion defense contract? That's extraordinary for a 6-year-old company. The government needs the best technology, I said. They did their research and they chose Meridian. We won't let them down. The interview cut to a commercial break, but a banner remained at the bottom of the screen. Coming up, Maya Rodriguez on her surprising personal life and why she keeps her family separate from her business empire. The silence in Mom's dining room was absolute. Finally, Claire spoke, her voice shaking. 6 years. You've been running this company for 6 years. I set down my fork. Yes. While we've been. Marcus couldn't finish the sentence. While you've been very concerned about my career trajectory, I said calmly. Yes. Jennifer stared at me. The administrative assistant thing. That was a convenient simplification, I said. When people ask what I do, I tell them I work at Meridian. They assume the rest. I've never corrected anyone's assumptions. Mom's hands were trembling. But sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? I did tell you, I said gently. I told you I worked at Meridian Technologies. I told you I worked in the tech sector. I told you I was happy with my career. Every word was true. But you let us think, Claire started. I let you think what you wanted to think, I interrupted, my voice still calm. Every family gathering for 6 years, you've told me what you assumed about my life. I never confirmed or denied anything. I just listened. Marcus was shaking his head. This is insane. You're worth. The news said $4 billion. $4.2 billion as of market close today, I confirmed. Though it fluctuates. And you just sat there, Claire said, her voice rising. For 6 years, you sat there and let us lecture you about career advancement and ambition and success? You seem to enjoy the lectures, I observed. I didn't want to interrupt. On the television, the interview resumed. Sarachin was smiling warmly. Maya, our final segment tonight is personal. You're 29, running a Fortune 500 company, worth over $4 billion. What does your family think of all this success? On screen, I paused thoughtfully before responding. My family is supportive in their own way. They've always wanted the best for me, even if they didn't always understand what that looked like. Do they know? About Meridian, about your success. I smiled on camera. They're finding out. Sarachin laughed. That's cryptic. But speaking of finding out, we have a surprise for you. We reached out to some of your early investors and employees, people who were there at the beginning. They wanted to share some thoughts. The screen cut to a series of testimonials. A silver-haired man in a suit appeared first. I'm Richard Chin, managing partner at Apex Ventures. I met Maya when she was 23 years old, pitching Meridian out of her apartment. I've been a venture capitalist for 30 years. And I've never met anyone with her combination of technical brilliance and business acumen. Investing in Meridian was the easiest decision I've ever made. Another face appeared, a young woman in glasses. I'm Dr. Sarah Patel, Chief Technology Officer at Meridian. I left a senior position at Google to join Maya's team when we were just 12 people in a shared office space. Why? Because she showed me technology that was 5 years ahead of anything else in the market. She's not just a CEO. She's a once-in-a-generation technical mind. A third testimonial began. I'm James Morrison, former CTO of IBM. When Maya pitched her AI integration platform to our executive team 3 years ago, I was skeptical. A 26-year-old CEO of a company we'd never heard of? But within 15 minutes, she'd identified inefficiencies in our infrastructure that our own team had missed for years. IBM became Meridian's third-largest client that month. It was the best business decision we made that year. The testimonials continued, each one more glowing than the last. CEOs of major corporations, technology leaders, industry analysts, all praising my vision, my leadership, my impact on the industry. Marcus had his head in his hands. Claire was crying quietly. Jennifer looked like she might faint. Dad finally spoke, his voice hoarse. Maya, I don't understand. Why keep this secret from us? It wasn't a secret, Dad, I said gently. It was just information you never asked about. Every time we got together, you all had so much to share about your own lives. I was happy to listen. But Mom couldn't finish, tears streaming down her face. The interview was concluding. Sarachin faced the camera directly. There you have it. Maya Rodriguez, CEO of Meridian Technologies, a company valued at $40 billion, serving 92 of the Fortune 100, and led by a 29-year-old who's redefining what's possible in enterprise technology. Maya, thank you for joining us. Any final thoughts for our viewers? On screen, I looked directly into the camera. Work hard. Stay focused. Don't let others define success for you. And remember, the people who underestimate you often underestimate themselves as well. Zerchin smiled. Wise words from one of the most successful CEOs in America. That's our show for tonight. I'm Sarachin. Thank you for watching. The program ended, cutting to a commercial for luxury watches. I reached for my water glass, taking another slow sip while my family processed what they'd just witnessed. Marcus finally looked up. We didn't. No. I finished for him. No, you didn't. You assumed. And I let you. But why? Claire demanded, wiping her eyes. Why let us believe you were just an administrative assistant? Why sit through all those conversations about your entry-level position? Because they were revealing, I said simply. Every family gathering showed me exactly what you all thought of me. What you thought of people you perceived as beneath you. It was educational. Jennifer found her voice. That's cruel, Maya. To let us make fools of ourselves. I didn't make you do anything, I interrupted, my calm tone unchanged. You made your own choices. You decided that someone who answered phones must be unsuccessful. You decided that administrative work was beneath you. You decided that wealth and titles were the only measures of worth. Those were your choices, not mine. Mom reached for my hand. Sweetheart, we never meant. Yes, you did, I said, not unkindly. You meant every word. The pity, the judgment, the lectures about ambition and success. You meant all of it. You just didn't have all the information. Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. The things I said, about you wasting your life, were your honest assessment based on what you thought you knew, I finished. I don't hold it against you, Marcus. You saw someone you thought was failing and tried to help. That's actually admirable in its own way. Don't, Claire said sharply. Don't make excuses for us. We were horrible to you. You were honest, I corrected. There's a difference. You showed me who you really are when you think you're better than someone. That's valuable information. Dad cleared his throat. So what happens now? I stood, collecting the empty cake plates. Now, nothing changes. I'll keep running Meridian. You'll keep selling real estate and consulting. We'll still have family dinners. The only difference is you have more information than you did an hour ago. Nothing changes? Marcus stood abruptly. Maya, everything changes. You're a billionaire. You run a Fortune 500 company. You're on national television. And tomorrow I'll be back in that 400-square-foot Brooklyn apartment, coding until 2 a.m. because we have a product launch in 3 weeks, I said. My life doesn't change just because you now know about it. Claire wiped her eyes again. I don't understand. If you have $4 billion, why live in a studio apartment? Why keep working 18-hour days? Why not enjoy it? I am enjoying it, I said. Building Meridian, solving impossible problems, pushing the boundaries of what technology can do, that's what I enjoy. The money is just a byproduct. A measurement of value created, not the goal itself. Jennifer spoke up hesitantly. The things I said about your apartment, about not being able to afford restaurants, were based on incorrect assumptions, I said. But you weren't wrong about the apartment itself. It really is only 400 square feet. I really do take the subway. Those facts haven't changed. But you could have anything, Mom said. Mansions, cars, jewelry. Why deny yourself? I'm not denying myself anything, I explained patiently. I have exactly what I want. A space that's mine, work that matters, and a team that's changing how the world's most important companies operate. What would a mansion add to that? Marcus sank back into his chair. I called you entry-level forever. Right before the news segment. I said you'd be answering phones until you're 40. You did, I confirmed. And you just smiled and passed the cake. There was cake to pass. Claire let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. How can you be so calm about this? We've been condescending to you for 6 years. 6 years of telling you how to run your life, how to be successful, what you should be doing differently. And all along you were exactly where I needed to be, I finished. Claire, I told you that tonight. Multiple times. You just didn't believe me. Dad stood slowly, walking around the table to face me. Maya, I owe you an apology. We all do. We made assumptions and we were cruel based on those assumptions. That's inexcusable. Dad, you weren't cruel. You were concerned. There's a difference. We were cruel, Mom said firmly, joining Dad. We judged you, we pitied you, we tried to fix something that wasn't broken. And you bore it all with grace. I bore it with information you didn't have, I said. The grace was just knowing the context would shift eventually. Marcus looked up. Is that why you came tonight? To see our reactions when we found out. I came because it's Mom's birthday, I said simply. The timing of the interview was coincidental. CNBC's been trying to book me for 8 months. I finally said yes. But you knew we'd see it, Claire said. You knew we'd be watching TV. I suspected, I admitted. Mom always has CNBC on during dinner. You all like watching the market updates. It seemed likely. Jennifer shook her head slowly. You planned this. The whole thing. Let us dig ourselves deeper and deeper then. I didn't plan anything, I interrupted. I just didn't correct your assumptions. There's a difference between planning someone's humiliation and simply allowing them to reveal themselves. The room fell silent again. In the background, CNBC had moved on to other news, but the damage was done. The entire family sat in various states of shock, processing the revelation that the person they'd been pitying and lecturing for 6 years was actually one of the most successful people in their industry. Finally, Mom spoke. What can we do, sweetheart? To make this right? Nothing needs to be made right, I said. You all shared your honest opinions. Now you have more context for those opinions. That's life. People learn and grow. But we hurt you, Claire insisted. Did you? I asked genuinely. I've been too busy building a company to worry much about family dinners. Your opinions, while noted, didn't really impact my day-to-day life. Marcus flinched. That's somehow worse. That we mattered so little that our cruelty didn't even register. That's not what I said, I corrected gently. I said it didn't impact my work. You're my family. You matter. But you don't define me. No one does. Dad pulled out a chair and sat down heavily. I don't know what to say. I'm proud of you, obviously. Amazed. But also ashamed that I didn't see it, didn't ask better questions, didn't assume the best instead of the worst? I suggested. He nodded slowly. Yes. That. I finished collecting the plates and carried them to the kitchen. For what it's worth, I understand why you made the assumptions you did. Administrative assistant is a common entry-level position. Most people in those roles do stay at that level. You applied statistical probability to limited information. It was logical. It was prejudiced, Mom said quietly. We looked down on you because we thought you had a certain job. That's prejudice, sweetheart. Pure and simple. Maybe, I conceded. But it's also human nature. Everyone makes judgments based on the information they have. The key is being willing to update those judgments when new information appears. Claire stood up, walking to the kitchen doorway. Are you really going to act like this is all fine? Like we didn't spend 6 years being absolutely horrible to you? I turned to face her. Claire, I'm not going to pretend you were kind. You weren't. But you were honest. You showed me exactly what you thought of people you perceived as less successful than yourselves. That's valuable data. Data, she repeated. You're talking about your family like we're a research project. No, I said firmly. I'm talking about you like you're people who made mistakes based on incomplete information. That's very different from malice. Marcus appeared in the doorway beside Claire. What about the things I said? About you wasting your potential, about being comfortable with mediocrity? Those weren't just mistakes, Maya. Those were judgments about your character. Based on what you thought you knew about my circumstances, I pointed out. If I actually had been an administrative assistant struggling to advance, would those words have been cruel or motivational? He paused. I don't know. Exactly, I said. Context matters. Intent matters. You thought you were pushing me to want more for myself. You just didn't realize I already had more than you could imagine. Jennifer stepped forward hesitantly. The interview. When she asked about your family, you said we were supportive in our own way. Did you really mean that? Yes, I said simply. You've always wanted the best for me. You just had very specific ideas about what the best looked like. That's not lack of support, it's just narrow vision. That's generous, Dad said. More generous than we deserve. I dried my hands on a towel. Dad, I don't keep score. I built a company. You're proud now that you know. That's enough. Is it though? Mom asked. Maya, we missed everything. Your company's founding, your IPO, your success. We missed it all because we were too busy judging you to actually see you. You saw what you expected to see, I said. Everyone does that. The difference is whether you're willing to see differently when evidence changes. The television in the living room cut to a new segment. The anchor's voice carried into the kitchen. In related news, Meridian Technologies announced after hours that their Q1 projections exceed analyst expectations by 30%, citing expanded government contracts and new international partnerships. Stock prices are already climbing in after-hours trading, up 7%. Maya Rodriguez's personal net worth is estimated to have increased by approximately $200 million since our interview aired just 1 hour ago. Marcus let out a sound like all the air had left his body. 200 million. In an hour. Markets react quickly, I said, returning to the dining room. It'll stabilize. Claire followed me back to the table. How do you live with that? Knowing your worth changes by millions every day? How do you stay grounded? By remembering it's just numbers, I said. The work is what matters. The team, the technology, the problems we solve. Whether I'm worth 4 billion or 6 billion doesn't change the code I write or the strategy sessions I lead. But it has to change something, Jennifer insisted. You can't just ignore that kind of wealth. I don't ignore it, I explained. I've established scholarships for computer science students, funded research initiatives, invested in education programs. The wealth is a tool, not a trophy. It enables work that matters. Dad leaned forward. The things you've accomplished, Maya. The impact you're having on an entire industry. We should have known. We should have seen the signs. What signs? I asked. I work long hours, live modestly, and don't talk much about my job. That describes millions of people. There were no signs because I didn't leave any. That was deliberate, Marcus said. You wanted us to underestimate you. No, I corrected. I didn't want my family relationships complicated by my professional success. I wanted dinners like this to be about family, not about my company. But you all made it about careers anyway. Just with incomplete information. Mom wiped her eyes again. What do we do now? How do we move forward from this? I looked around the table at my family, shocked, ashamed, struggling to reconcile the person they thought they knew with the person they'd just discovered. We move forward the same way we always have, I said calmly. We have family dinners. We celebrate birthdays. We stay connected. The only difference is now you know why I smile when you give me career advice. I'll never give you career advice again, Marcus said quietly. Why not? I asked. You're successful in your field. Your advice might be valuable. Just maybe ask a few more questions first before making assumptions. Claire shook her head in disbelief. You're really not angry. After everything we said, everything we implied about you. You're genuinely not angry. I'm not, I confirmed. I'm busy building something that matters. I don't have time for anger over assumptions people made with limited information. Life's too short and there's too much work to do. The dining room fell silent once more. Outside, the sound of New York traffic filtered through the windows. Somewhere in the city, my company's headquarters stood 47 floors tall, with my name on the building and 15,000 employees working to change how the world's most important companies operate. But here in Mom's dining room, surrounded by half-eaten birthday cake and shattered assumptions, I was just Maya. The same person I'd been 6 years ago when I founded Meridian. The same person I'd been at every family dinner since. The only difference was now they knew. And whether that knowledge changed anything beyond tonight remained to be seen.